Hello and welcome to Fun, Faith, and Fuckery, the show that brings more play, pray, and slay into your day. I'm your host, Nikki Bailey. I'm a performer, a writer, an Emmy-nominated producer, and I have a Master of Divinity degree, and now I do this. Ha ha! So, I went to school to be clergy, and I'm really excited about the show today because my guest is a writer, a witch, and a soul stitcher, and I cannot wait for her to tell you what all that means. Rawiyah Tariq. But before we talk to Rawiyah about what all that means, I want to tell you about how you can be more involved in the show and help make Fun, Faith, and Fuckery a success. So the first thing you can do is share with your friends. Tell everybody you know. Tell everybody, shout it from the rooftops. Everybody listen to Fun, Faith, and Fuckery. Ah! That's what I need you to do. I need you to share with your friends, post about it, talk about it, get other people to listen to it or watch it. Second, you can like, comment, follow, or review the show. So wherever it is that you're either watching it, if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube, you can actually comment right now in real time, and I can see your comments and you can be part of the conversation. Also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or Google Podcasts, you can leave a review, you can leave a 5-star rating, you can give us a thumbs up. All those things help to make the show more successful. Finally, making the show is a labor of love, and it does cost a little money. So if you can support the show financially, that would be amazing. And there are a few ways you can do that. One is you can go over to Patreon and become a Patreon member, and you'll also have access to behind-the-scenes content and special features that I do just for my Patreon followers. Or if you want to make a one-time donation, you can do that through my Venmo at Nikki-Bailey-2. Because apparently there was somebody else who took my name before I got to it. So you can check out my website at nikkibaileycomedy.com for more information on how to support the show. And let's get started. So I had a really interesting week, and I'll tell you what happened. First, I threw my back out last week, which means I've been in pain since last week. I don't know if you've thrown your back out, but when I tell you that it's not cute, it's not cute, okay? It is not fun. Nobody likes it. It's just rude. Frankly, I'm just going to say it's rude and just wrong that your body could decide that, you know what, it just doesn't want to do what you want it to do, and that it's fine with it, and it just stops working the way you expect it to work, and that's fine. I love my body. She takes good care of me when she's not inflicting horrible pain upon me. Okay, I'm going to talk to Rawiyah about that when she comes on, because she's got wisdom in this area. So the other cool thing, though, I have to say, a really cool thing that happened this week is that my best friend since high school, Casey, came to LA to visit me, and it was an amazingly wonderful 2 days of getting to see him. We have been friends since we were 14 years old, and that is 34 years. So do the math to figure out how old I am. I just gave you all the numbers you need. It's not algebra, people. But 34-year friendship, and it was just like we picked up where we left off. Like, you know, those friends that when you see them, it doesn't matter how long it's been since you saw them the last time, you can just fall right back into the way that you are with each other, the love that you have for each other. And that's what it was. It was so great to get to hang out with my friend Casey. He got to meet my partner. I got to take him to a couple of my favorite restaurants, and we just had a great time. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for getting to spend quality time with my friend. And we had this really crazy thing happen while we were out for dinner. This woman came up to us, and she was drunk. She was obviously drunk, and she told us that she was drunk. But she told us that she was a medium, that she was a medium, and she's able to communicate with dead people. And she said, there's a woman standing by your table who wants you to know that you are protected, that you are taken care of, that you don't have to worry about things because you have people around you taking care of you and helping you. And it was such a nice moment because Casey and I looked at each other and we were both like, it's my mom. It's got to be my mom, right? My mom passed away 16 years ago. And anytime I go to talk to a medium or I go to have like any kind of readings or ancestral readings or anything like that, my ancestors are very loud. They do not screw around. They show up and they show up hard. So if you have any like mediumship gifts and you're around me, my ancestors are likely to like, you know, flick you on the forehead and say something to get your attention, so that they can give you a message for me. But it was a really cool, like serendipitous moment. And since then, Casey has had a bunch of really cool serendipitous moments, and we've just been, it was just like magic, you know, when you reconnect with someone who knows you, really, really knows you and loves you, and you get to sort of marinate in the love of like a 34-year-old friendship. Magical things happen. Magic comes from that, because that is what magic is, right? That love and magic are one and the same as far as I'm concerned. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was a really lovely experience. It was a really fun couple of days. And yeah, I went out on a school night 2 nights in a row and I survived. I could do it. I'm not that old. I know you did the math by now. I know you figured it out that I'm whatever age I am, but I'm not so old that I can't enjoy hanging out with a friend on a weekday night. You know what I'm saying? I can do that. I'm grown. Anyway, so my guest today is Rawiyah Tariq. They are a gender non-binary artist and kink-aware professional with roots in queer polyamorous fat community. Their tone is reflective of these roots, and their work is informed by how these intersect with their Blackness. Magic, massage, storytelling, and performance art are tools that they use to liberate, heal, and reclaim space for marginalized community. They believe in cohesive and somatic practices that align body, mind, and spirit. They are the force behind the blog Mammy is Dead, and you can also catch them as a feature in the film Fatitude and Heavenly Brown Body, both of which I highly recommend. Currently, Rawiyah is living in the Bay Area while continuing work on their book and A Sovereign Embodiment, as well as providing care to Black, queer, and trans therapists via Project Etsy. I should have asked for a pronunciation. Project Etsen with Ella Ofori, and launching a Black-centered podcast called My Black Body Podcast with Jessica Wilson. Please help me welcome my guest, Rawiyah Tariq. Hi, Rawiyah.
Hi. It's nice to see you.
It's so good to see you.
In the daytime.
In the day, I know. So let me set up how we met. So I actually don't even know how we met. I just know we met on Facebook. Maybe through some kind of like
something awesome probably happened. Some awesome person we probably had in common, and then we ran across each other.
And you posted one day that you were interested in writing, like putting together a writing group that wanted to write late at night. And I was like, sign me up. So you started this amazing writers group called Insomniacs Inc., where some of us get together on Friday nights and we write, we just co-work and write together. So you are that kind of person, though. You are a community gatherer. You're a community builder. Have you always been that kind of person? Someone who brings people together?
No, like literally, I'm the type of person who would play like multi-massive online games, and corpse drag my way through missions. Like I didn't want to work on a team. Like I'll die and then I'll res closer to my target, and then I'll just keep doing that. I corpse drag. So it took me a while for me to. What happened is people were like, "Oh, we see you making moves. We see you saying like this needs to change," and then being part of that change, whether or not anyone is coming with you. So then people started to be like, let's connect, let's do stuff together. And so then I started to become a community connector. I was just like, shit's twisted and I got to get it untwisted the best way that I can. And I ended up meeting people along the way who were like, yeah, you're right. I love you. My whole motto was, I love you. Let's fuck shit up. So,
Love that. I love you. Let's fuck shit up. So speaking of fucking shit up, which F do you want to talk about? Fun, faith, or fuckery?
Let's talk about faith.
Let's talk about faith, faith, the faith, the. All right. Sorry, I had a little George Michael moment
Yeah,
happen
I
there.
love it. Bless.
Yes. So tell me about your faith journey. Tell me, first of all, did you grow up in a religious or spiritual setting?
Hmm. I grew up Roman Catholic, so we were like, it was like Roman Catholic on the Sundays when something was coming out at the movies, and then like Southern Baptist when there wasn't anything my mother was looking forward to seeing at the movie theater. Um, but like we were baptized Roman Catholic because the ideology at that time, which we know is not the same, is that the Catholic schools, the private schools, which in New Orleans a lot of private schools were Catholic schools, um, were better institutions of learning. So I was baptized so that I could go to these schools.
Oh wow. You had to get baptized to go to Catholic school?
Well, it gives you a discount. It's in the parish.
Shut up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Orleans Parish. I went to St. Anthony of Padua Magnet School of Technology. I went there for years. I graduated, went to an all-girl, traditionally segregated, which meant that my school was all black, Catholic school, Xavier University Preparatory. And then I went to Dillard University, which is also another Christian school. I think it's Protestant.
So on this whole journey through all this Christian education, were you said you were going to church when your mom didn't have a movie that she wanted to see.
Uh-huh.
So did you which one did you go to more, and which one do you think influenced you the most?
The Roman Catholic one I went to more.
Yeah.
I believe that the Roman Catholic one influenced me more in my younger years, but gospel music was always a thing. So it was very confusing for me when I'm like, I'm a witch, but I love this gospel music. And then I realized that gospel music was like trapping for Jesus. Like, there's like it is. Like it is. Like you can't, like you listen to gospel music and you be like, you know what, background you have. You're like, gospel music, that's the shit right there. But yeah, it was Catholicism, and Roman Catholicism in particular, that I was most influenced by, and in that there was a whole thing about sin and original sin. Like I wanted to be an exorcist actually when I was a child, and they said,
really?
right, yeah, and they said you can't be an exorcist because you're not a priest, and I was like, okay, I'll become a priest, and they're like, you can't be a priest because you are a woman, so you can be a nun though, and I'm like, but the nuns are badass. Like the history of nuns is fucking ridiculous. Like you can't tell me nothing. They're a bunch of lesbians with like a lot of time for libraries and gardening and actually attending to the people's needs. Like
right,
nuns are actually out there in the street
doing the work, doing
the fucking work, and they refuse to condemn homosexuality and abortions. And so, like, the Vatican is actually like, yo, fuck these nuns. We got to get them under control. And nuns are like, no, actually, fuck you. So, like, there's a whole thing happening between nuns and the Vatican right now that's been happening for the past few decades. But anyway, so I didn't want to be a nun. so I was like, okay, whatever. And then in my school, we were told that women couldn't be altar servers. So then I became an altar server just because they told me I couldn't. I went all the way to the top of the parish, and I was like, this is sexist. So then once I became an altar server in like 6th grade, then I was like kind of stuck in it. But I will say, growing up Roman Catholic had me thinking I was going to go to hell constantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really terrible. Like it's very much, you weren't encouraged to read the Bible. You had a missalette, the same homily. Like everything was centered on the death and the sacrifice, not on resurrection. Mm-hmm. Really. As someone who was assigned female at birth, I felt dirty. The only representation I saw of a darker skinned person in my church was the devil being slain by Archangel Michael.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was that, and that was he was brown skin. That was the only.
Wow.
That was the only. He wasn't like.
Was it on a stain? Was it like on a stained glass window, or was
No,
it?
it was a statuary. It was a statuary. It was a statuary
Wow.
where the candles were. So I never felt seen. Like there was this blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus. I never felt seen. I always felt like I was in danger and peril. Um, but through catechism, like what we learned was that Mary was there for us. And I began having a real affinity to the Virgin Mother, this image of compassion and empathy. And like, and then I had already had the ritual from being Roman Catholic. Ritual is a huge thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it made me like I was ready. I was in my best pagan form ever. But and then I found like a lot of the religious holidays coincided with the pagan ones, which is no coincidence. Like it was, they meshed them up so that people would be more likely to convert to Christianity.
Right.
So I was like, I got this shit down.
So
And
when did you when did you get into being a witch? Like how did you go from good little Catholic girl to I'm a witch?
There was a few things that happened. A ball got lobbed at my head when I was in like 6th grade, and I went flying, and then I landed on the asphalt, the blacktop, and I was like staring up at the sky, and I had a very lucid moment, and it was, I believe the sky is blue because someone told me that that's what the color blue is. And I was like, what if I believe things are things only because I was told? And so then, I'm starting to question everything. And I think I was 13 in high school. So I was like, what, 11 or something like that? I was never too good at maths. But I'm like, what do I believe that I only believe because someone told me? And then I started to read the Bible on my own and found out that Jesus was a G, and I would totally fuck him. And he was hella political. Like, I would have hella been on Jesus's dick. Like, he was really here for like equality and women, and he was like, fuck your capitalism. And I was like, all these messages from this teacher got turned around. And then I started studying other teachers, and then I thought how fucking awful it would be if someone went to, I knew about God in a certain way because I was raised where I was raised. But what if I was raised in another country where they never heard about God? They're gonna go to hell? I was like, there's too many good people in this world that would be going to hell. I don't believe God rolls like that. And then I read the Old Testament, and I was like, God's a dick.
I actually got in trouble in seminary because we were talking about the book of Job, and I was like, God's kind of an asshole in that book.
God's kind of an asshole in that book. And not just that book, so many other books where he's like, bring me their foreskins, like cut off all their dicks and bring them to me. Like, God was like, love isn't jealous, but he was like hella jealous. Like, so I'm like, I think some shit got twisted either by man or by God or whatever. But anyway, I'm just gonna go like figure shit out on my own. And I think I was living in Colorado Springs where I had this habit of, I'm building a grimoire. No, you're going to hell, so throw it away. So I'm a witch. No, you're not. I'm a witch. No, I'm not. And then one day I was like, I'm going to go get baptized in a Baptist church. So I did the whole thing. The pastor, he like has me, he dips me under the water. And when he dips me under the water, I hear a voice as clear as a bell go through my entire body and say, child, seek me in your own way.
Ooh.
And he pulled me up, and then he looked at me, and his face was like, he looked like he was in awe and terror. And he was like, I felt something move through you. He's like, I felt the spirit of God move through you. And this is in front of like the entire congregation. He's just staring at me because he felt what I heard move through me and felt move through me because we were connected in the water. In that moment, he felt it too. And he was like, you are to do great works, child. And I was like, thank you. And I dried off and I walked out of that church and never walked back.
Wow. So when did you discover Did you come to do you use the word witchcraft?
Yeah.
When did you discover witchcraft, and how did you come to it? Was it like through the sacred feminine? Did you
No.
like
It was much more morbid than that.
Oh, I love a good morbid story.
It's really morbid and sad. We had discovered, we were in school, of course, you get history classes. And so they were like, the Spanish Inquisition happened. And I was like, oh, okay, what's the Spanish Inquisition? So nobody really, really wants to talk about the fucked up things the Catholic Church did. So, but I'm like, I could read books. So I read some books, and then I found out about torture. And then I was like obsessed with torture. I was like, people do this to each other? This can't be real. So I was obsessed with torture. I should have also then picked up that maybe I was kinky, but I didn't figure that out until years later. So I was like, what the fuck is this? So like, I just kept reading, and then I found out, oh, they were torturing people and calling them witches. And so I was like, what is a witch? And so I was going through all of that. And then through that, I learned that witches were basically medicine women. Like, they delivered babies. They knew how the plants work and how to use that medicine and cultivate that medicine and heal other people's bodies. They were root workers. Like, they worked in conjunction with the land and with energy. They did holistic healing. Like, and so I wanted to be that. It was like, oh, that's me. This is what I want.
So you identified with these torture victims.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Elementary school was particularly brutal. So yeah, I totally identify with torture victims.
So what kind of witchcraft do you practice? What sort of tradition do you follow? A particular tradition? Do you draw from multiple? And can you tell us a little bit about some of the traditions for people who may not know, if you know?
I was trained for the past 5 years in a tradition called Anderson Fairy. But my tradition is a blend of, it's so odd. I try to explain. I can't really. There's root working, which means I work with roots, literally with herbs and plants. And then there's, I feel like I'm being connected by source. I feel like I'm working or listening to source. I feel like I'm channeling from source. I have an ancestor practice. I work with my ancestors and those that have passed on. I work on healing the ancestral trauma, the epigenetics of that trauma that is passed down to us by what we have gone through. I don't really do ATRs, which is African traditional religions, because I haven't been initiated in any of them. But I'm from New Orleans, so the root working is like natural to me. Like, that passed through the diaspora. But as far as the religious part of it, no. I have been so personally harmed by so much of the religious part of it, but I'm no less spiritual. I'm very spiritual. My spirituality is center in my life, and my faith is what keeps me going. My faith is what keeps me wanting to do healing work and keeps me wanting to be the best person I can be and pull up as many people as I can with me.
That, I think, is what all faiths should be teaching us. That's what we should be getting from all of our faith traditions, from all of our faith paths. So tell me about your spiritual practices. What are some of the things that you do as a witch, as a conjurer, as a root worker? What are some practices that you because I want to give you a little heads up about my listeners may or may not know something about witchcraft. They may or may not know about paganism and all that stuff. So you might have to give us a little more context for.
Oof. I understand. It's hard when you do something every day. Like, for me, magic is in every single thing. So like, when I get up, I greet the world. I say thank you to the ancestors that are the reason why I'm here. I give thanks to like the earth that I am on, that I get to be here. At the same time, honor the people whose this land was taken away from, right? Mm-hmm. I give glory to the unseen, the thing, like, because I don't know God's name. Like I give glory to the unseen and thankfulness for any of my spirits or guides or ancestors that like woke me up today. So it's like the same kind of shit with a different twist, with a different just
Yeah.
going. So like I know that sometimes when I'm feeling bad, like I pray. My rituals are prayer. If I'm lighting a candle, it is the same as a petition. You know, like when I need to cleanse myself because I feel like I have too much negative energy or too much things happening in a bad way, I take spiritual baths by combining herbs and milks or salt or sage or so, you know, and I mix it all together and I give myself a bath with it. I do check-ins with myself to make sure that I'm aligned, that I'm working for my higher good and the higher good of those around me. Um, yeah. So like it's so much of our stuff is the same. I have songs that I sing. Sometimes I still sing gospel songs. Like Down to the River to Pray is an excellent song as someone who works with water and who's a witch. Going
Yeah.
down to the river, water spirit moves across the water. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, there's just I'm trying to think of specific things, but
So when you pray,
uh-huh.
to whom or what are you praying?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I can't say. I believe that I am praying to. I do. This is where it gets like, I'm probably going to sound real out the box, but I don't care. I really believe we are all. I'm going to just say it. I think that like God seriously got bored one day and like had major FOMO and was like, I want to know what everything is. And so God split themselves on the prism of time and space, and we all became little pieces of God that forgot ourselves.
Mm, that's deep.
And so we spend all our lives, our spiritual journeys, trying to get back, trying to get whole. And that reflects on the wholeness that we keep trying to find within ourselves individually. And we're trying to find that wholeness also cosmically. So when I'm praying to the God that is within me, and I'm praying to the God that is without me, right? That is outside of me. I'm praying to the God that is within you. I'm praying to the God that is also within some of the people that I fucking hate because we are God, but we have forgotten ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why we hurt ourselves and hurt each other, and why we keep trying to take from each other and then feel like we're above each other, but we're not. Like I feel like trash men should be paid as much, if not more, than doctors. Like so yeah, so when I pray, I'm praying to the God that is inside of me, the God that, you know, the God that has forgotten that they were God.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so that's basically my spiritual belief, right? Like in as small as a compact nutshell, you know, that I could make it.
We got a comment. We got a comment from someone who said, "This is actually my god sister. Many use higher power which means someone or something greater than you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, you know, for me, I use God. I use God. Sometimes I use goddess.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, when I pray, I'm praying to ancestors, spirit guides, muses, spirit animal. Like I'm praying to the whole.
Yeah, to the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I think of spirit as more than just what I was taught in church. Spirit is all that is.
All that is.
Yeah, God encompasses all that is. And so I think it's really interesting that you know, I think people would be surprised to hear a witch, because I think people have the idea that a witch is, you know, a Halloween costume, or a witch is a demonic, you know, like whatever. What would you want people to know that isn't true, or what stereotype about witches and witchcraft would you want people to sort of be like, throw that away? That's BS.
I would like I would like people to know that when I say like witches, we're witches and Christians and people in different religions, we're all the same. I really truly fucking mean it. We're all the same. Like when we talk long enough and get to the core of where we're coming from, we're all trying to go many roads to the same place. Also, just like there are witches who are like, just like there are Christians who are like, I go to church every Sunday, but I'm sleeping with so and so's cousin over here. They got witches that are doing the same shit. Like that spiritual bypassing, whether you're a witch or whether you're a Christian, happens. Like, and also just to quickly address the higher power thing, I want to say it's so weird for me because it's like, yeah, some people do use, talk to a higher power, but it's kind of weird for me because I'm like, I do believe in a higher power, and at the same time, I don't. Like, I believe when we're in sync and we're connected with all of it, we exist as we are part of the higher power. So I don't, and all of it is like, that's why you got to treat all of it with respect. That's why you even got to honor an animal that you kill to eat. That's why you bless your food. Like, because a sacrifice was made for you, and that sacrifice was God and God's love. So like, I'm like, yeah, kind of, I believe in a higher power, but at the same time, like, we are all that higher power. So it's kind of like, I don't, like, I believe in us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually, when you think about theologically, when you think about it, we're sort of raised to believe, if you were brought up Christian, and I was raised in a Baptist church, I was raised to believe that there is God, and God is out there, but that the Holy Spirit is in here, and the Holy Spirit and God are the same but different. And it's like, it's a weird thing to try to sort of, like, it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
But I also think that it's really common for all of us to believe that God is in us, God in us, God as us, God through us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that exactly. We are each other's, we also serve as each other's spirits and guides. When I get some messaging for someone or they have messaging for me, sometimes that's God talking to them through me. My channeling and divination work is just me becoming a vessel for like, and I don't go into a channeling or divination work like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to pull shit out of the sky and tell you. It's like, no, we're having a conversation. You tell me what's up so I know where to focus.
Tell us what a channeling or a divination is.
So I do the tarot cards. I are oracle cards. It's like a deck of cards. I sometimes also use a book. And so what I'll have people do is concentrate on what their question is. We'll talk about it. But before we do any pulling of the cards to read or decipher or interpret the symbols of, we have to, for me in my practice, we have to make sure we get the right question, because a lot of people ask their questions in fear. They pray out of fear, and we don't want to pray out of fear or ask questions out of fear. We want to like ask questions with like solution, or ask questions with hope, or have questions with faith. So like,
I'm gonna press pause because I want you have to take, we're gonna take it even more basic for people before we get to the question thing.
Okay.
Because there are people who may not know what channeling and what a divination is.
Oh, okay.
And so can you explain what a divination is, like, in the first place? Like, what are you doing in a divination? Or who are you communicating with? What is happening for you?
Okay. Wow, I realize I haven't had to think of it at this level in a long time before. But
right, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted you to come on, because a lot of who I've talked to on the show so far have been people who are in Christian faiths, and I think a lot of my viewers and listeners are also people who are questioning and seeking and interested in, like, exploring lots of different other faith traditions and other ways of being spiritual, but may not have the language for it. So the language, we have to define terms for folks,
right,
in case they don't know what the terms are.
Oh my God, you're an amazing host. Okay, yeah.
So tell us what is a divination?
A divination is using a tool, and it can be stones. It can be symbols. It can be cards. Um, and the point of a divination is to when you have a question or a concern, and you just have a lot of like lack of clarity around which way to go or what to do or what's going on. We use these tools to divine, which means find out, get answers to, get clarity about what the situation is. So that's what a divination is. It is a tool. It's a tool that is used to help one gain clarity on a matter.
And then what does it mean to channel?
So when you channel, it's like imagine if okay, when you channel, you know how sometimes when people catch a spirit in church,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they get up and they start talking and they spew in wisdom or knowledge, but it may not necessarily be knowledge or wisdom they have from their own life.
Right? We call that in Christianity, we might call that the gift of prophecy.
That is channeling.
Yep.
That is channeling.
Okay. So when you are channeling and divining for someone, you said that you often use tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
But you said for you, it's really important to get the question right.
Yeah.
So tell us about the why that's so important.
It's so important because what we think about and what we concentrate on, we're going to be pulling towards us. It's kind of like if you're walking down the street and you look at a certain point, you'll end up at that point, even if you meant to end up somewhere different. Like, it's just what you're looking at, you're drawing yourself towards. So if we want to find clarity for an answer that's productive, I want us to focus on what would be productive. Ask a question. Don't like for me it's like, am I gonna lose my when someone's like, am I gonna get fired from my job? My next question is, do you even like that job? And I'll be like, no, not really. I'm like, so why don't we talk about what it would take for you to find a job that you liked?
Right. That's a more positive outcome stated question than am I going to get fired?
Yeah, more solution oriented.
And also more open ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
So instead of praying, don't get me please, I don't want to be fired, you're praying for, please let me get hired at a place that I love. Different energy.
Totally different energy. One of the critiques that I've heard non-Christians have of Christianity is that it is the idea that it's very fear-based. Is that something that you think or that you see in or even remember from your experience of Christianity?
I remember growing up Catholic, it was definitely fear-based. What outside of when I moved into working more in, or when I went to the Baptist church, there was definitely joy there, but there was a fear more of how the community saw you.
Yeah.
There was a different place where the fear came in. The fear was like what the community thought of you, whether you were proper enough for the community, like like what is said about your family if you decided to be a certain way. So I didn't feel the fear of my soul going to hell the times that I went to a Baptist church. But I did feel as if I needed to definitely behave a certain way, and I was afraid for any repercussions of not towing that line.
Yeah.
Of what was considered morally correct or decent behavior, what it meant not only for me, but for the people around me. I also did not like how I saw men treat women in either places, where I felt like I felt completely disempowered as someone who was born woman in these religious spaces. So, yeah, Roman Catholicism. Oh yeah, it was all about fear, all about
the fear. Yeah.
But in Baptist and other traditions, my boyfriend's mom was Protestant. It was like the most chill yet boring situation I've ever been to, and yeah, and any I take issue with any spirituality, not the spirituality, but the religious tenet that tells you that if you are not out here prophesizing to other people, that you're gonna go to hell if you don't harass other people. I
Yeah.
have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that. Like, yeah, because that doesn't feel loving to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You call yourself a soul stitcher. Tell us what a soul stitcher is.
Um, a soul stitcher, it talks about my work, all the different forms of work that I do, is about creating, helping people realize that they are a sovereign embodiment. That I realized years ago that I went on this spiritual journey, whatever, meditating, had this feeling, told my teacher, oh my God, I had this feeling. And my teacher was like, can you explain the feeling? And I tried to explain the feeling and I was stumbling over the words. And she said, entitlement? And I was like, and when I realized that I had felt entitlement and I had never felt entitlement to my own body, I started to scream, and my ancestors were screaming too, because along that line, we have lost the sense of what it meant to be entitled to our own flesh. Being the
Right.
descendants of enslaved people, being stolen from our land, living here under constant systematic oppression, like having a glass ceiling, like walking the minefield constantly. I forgot what it meant to be entitled to my own flesh. And so in that moment, I was like, oh my God, like, what? And that really solidified what I wanted to give to other people. I wanted them to see themselves as worthy, as lovable, and not in that soft way, like, I love myself, good vibes only. No, like, love yourself in a way that you can draw hard boundaries and tell people no. And like, there are people out here who were too afraid to tell people to pull up their masks over their nose. I'm like, bitch, you air fucking. It's life or death.
Right.
Like, a sovereign embodiment, a person who is sovereign within themselves, does not need to establish sovereignty over other people. And so that's my goal with the soul stitching. With soul stitching is it's like holding a mirror for someone, but holding it compassionately so that they can decide what they want to do with what they see.
That's beautiful.
And assisting them in that process and cheerleading them on in that process. Because it's not easy. Really knowing yourself in all of your parts is not easy. It's brutal. Because you not only do you see the bad parts, but once you really see that you are like worthy. Oh, like we talk about God X's love, but sometimes people don't really believe they're worthy. But when they believe they're worthy, and when they see how divine they are, and they honor the God within themselves, they can't help but honor the God in other people. Right? And then you move differently. Your life changes. You stop fucking with certain people. Friendships blow up. You can't fuck with that job. You can't fuck with that man. You can't fuck with, like, your life implodes. The village burns. And then in its place comes something beautiful and sustainable and sovereign. So I assist people in stitching their souls, finding their wholeness, and becoming that sovereign self.
That's some good shit right there. Mm-hmm. So you're also a writer, and you're working on a book.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the book at all? I
will talk about the book because I need to get this bitch done, and I'm doing a lot of work on it this week. The book is called Mammy is Dead. The evolution of a queer fat black femme. And it's a book, but it's not a book. It's an unbook. It's not going to be read chronologically. It is going to be read according to how you feel. There's an index that say in the beginning that says, how do you feel? Do you feel fucked up? Do you want to keep feeling fucked up? Read this shit. It's depressing. Literally. Like that.
I love that.
Are you feeling
like a choose your own adventure memoir.
It's a choose your own adventure memoir. It's got poetry, prose, recipes, rituals, spells. It has instructions. It has challenges. It's an unbook. It's meant to be read on paper. It's meant to be scribbled in the edges of. It's meant to be experienced. I had a journey and I want to share that journey, but I'm like, if you want to fucking come on a journey, come on a journey. It's written in the spirit of Lizzo. If I'm shining, everybody's gonna shine. So like,
yeah, you're gonna quote Saint Lizzo. We're gonna have to. If I'm shining, everybody gonna shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try. Yeah,
exactly. That's the yeah. So it's a challenge, and also I'm writing it. I'm really though realize that I'm also writing it for my younger self, because if I would have seen me when I was younger, I think I would have been able to be like, fuck all y'all. This might look like some shit right now, but trust me, 30 years from now, y'all could all suck a bag. Like, you know? And like, and I think I would be like, mission accomplished if some 15-year-old ends up with my book and it's like, I'm going to shave my head and never wear panties again. Like,
that's liberation right there. That is liberation.
That is a sovereign embodiment. So
yes, I love it. So you also perform. You're also a performer, and you perform burlesque.
Yeah,
and you're a musician.
Yes.
So tell us about how you got into burlesque.
Burlesque was a swan dive. Basically, I was terrified of. I could never really afford therapy, so my form of therapy was aversion therapy. So whatever I was afraid of, I would run headlong at it, screaming, because I was annoyed at being afraid of it. So I was terrified of people seeing me naked because I'm like, I'm so fat, I don't want anyone to see me naked. And then I did the vagina monologues one year, and I played the moaner. The director said, either you do the moaner or you do nothing. And I was like, fuck. So I did the moaner, and it was great. And my friend was like, I actually go to this dungeon. You should come with me. And I was like, great. So we went to a dungeon, and that was great.
Wait, press pause. Tell us what a dungeon is, because everybody's not going to know.
A dungeon is like a club. It's a club. It's a club where people tie each other up and spank them or pour hot wax on each other or like stick each other with like needles, not drug needles, but like, you know, just regular little like gauge needles and like.
So it's a BDSM club.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, bondage, discipline, sadomasochism, that type. Kink. Yeah.
Okay.
So my friend took me to this place. It was great. I kept going back. And then I joined this group of Black kinksters, and someone said, how do you handle being a kinkster and being naked and in spaces where what's seen as beautiful is thin white bodies? And so I wrote my response, and this person, a woman named Juicy Delight, was like, I have a burlesque troupe, come join. And so I was like, give me a month. I have to shift my calendar at work. And I shifted it, and I showed up, and she's like, who are you? I'm like, bitch, you told me.
You invited me.
You invited me, bitch. Our relationship was that way ever since. I started doing burlesque, and I picked the name Magnolia Black. And the first burlesque show I went to, I was in. And
wow. So you had never seen burlesque before? You just you were your first show that you ever went to, you were in. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I did it because I'm like, I'm afraid of people I don't know seeing me naked, and they're gonna tell me I'm awful, and then that means that I could just cover up and never let anyone see me naked again. And then I went out there and I stripped, and people were like, yeah, no. And I stripped in a duet with another fat performer named Kitty Von Quim, and it was beautiful. And then I've been doing it ever since. I took a break, and then the pandemic happened, but like I've been doing burlesque for like 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in addition to, so you do a lot of work around body positive, about feeling good about your body, feeling good in your body, loving your body. But I also know that you struggle with an eating disorder.
I do. So I I am 350 pounds and I am anorexic. And people want to classify that as atypical anorexia because I don't show because I'm fat. But I have a restrictive eating disorder. I have a registered. I now have a registered dietitian nutritionist. I have a therapist who is the ED specialist who's Black. All these people are Black. It's important to get Black care because eating disorder system is like definitely created by white men for white women, and it don't even help white women.
Right.
It don't. So because of my metabolic state, because I have PCOS, because of a tumor that I've had in my brain that was producing hormones, my body holds on to weight really well. So like, I don't look like I'm anorexic. It goes unnoticed. It went unnoticed for years and years and years. I'm dealing with severe osteoporosis in my back because my body was eating itself. The cortisol levels from the starving myself were so high that that my back is now fucked up. Like I'm 39 and my back is 79. Like right now I'm having a moment where I'm having difficulty eating, and what that looked like was like I didn't even realize I was not eating enough until I was having stomach cramps so severe that I'm screaming for 20 minutes. Like no one talks about how painful an eating disorder is. It makes you think you have migraines, you're dizzy, you can't use your words, headaches. They were testing me for vertigo. Like all these things were, I lost my vision because my blood sugar got high because I wasn't eating.
Wow.
Like, and when I went into the ER last year, I almost died twice. Last year, the first time I almost died last year was directly related to my eating disorder. I had dropped 50 pounds. I stopped eating. I was only drinking like water. I had dehydrated myself. Even though I was drinking a lot of water, I erased my electrolytes.
Wow.
By the time I drove to the ER crying out of one eye. By the time we got there, my blood sugar was over 600. They should have gone into a diabetic coma. My heart should have stopped because I was depleted of electrolytes. Meanwhile, the nurse is telling me you can't eat how you want. You have to eat a certain kind of way. You can't eat junk food, while giving me insulin shots saying because you're diabetic. I didn't become diabetic until that moment. I was pre-diabetic,
Wow.
diabetic, but because of my eating disorder fucked me up so bad, I'm now classified as diabetic.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And he was scolding me about eating too much when I was in there because I hadn't eaten. I had dropped 50 pounds.
Wow.
I dropped 50 pounds.
It just goes to show the discrimination and the bias that people have against fat people, particularly in the medical industry. I went to the doctor recently because I threw my back out and had the experience of being the person thought that I was doing drug seeking behavior because I asked for a particular kind of medication. But it's one of those things that is really it's widespread that we're not talking about enough. The bias that people have against fat women, and particularly fat women and Black women, when it comes to the medical industry.
I've gotten to the point where I haven't even asked for pain meds because I know that's how I'm going to be treated. Yeah. I've actually had my doctor, Dr. Radosevich, Dr. Rad. It's so fucking awesome. Dr. Rad is like, I'm giving you these pain meds. And I'm like, well, I don't need she's like, no. We've done this before. We've done this before, Rawiyah. I'm giving you the pain meds. Like, I believe you. Like, but it's so hard to get those advocates that believe you. And so now that I'm working with the Galliani Clinic, and I have all these people at my back, I'm believed. But I wouldn't physically be here if it wasn't for people. My community raised $16,000. $6,000. My brain is out of it. My community raised, was it 6,000? Was it more than that? I don't know, because the money went fast. But they raised thousands of dollars for me to be able to get an out of system therapist. I need a Black therapist who work with queer people So I could get a registered dietitian, so I could get a PCOS specialist to work with, so I could get the Gadiani Clinic, who was going to pull everybody together because they face everything through eating disorders. Like, because the system wasn't taking care of me. I was falling through the cracks. There was no one who was holding me. My therapist was shit. Like, if it wasn't for my community raising money and two people who took me in, Bertha and Michelle, who took me in, that's like, you're not dying. Like, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for advocates. Yeah.
It's beautiful that you have that community and that you have people who are in your corner. So many people don't have the benefit of that. So I'm so grateful that you do.
And that's why I'm loud about it. That's why I'm loud about the eating disorder. That's why I give information about like what I'm going through, what it feels like. That's why I'm saying, because there's so many Black assigned female at birth people who have eating disorders that nobody catches.
Yeah.
Because our bodies are built a certain way, and because we're used to a certain kind of thing, and we're used to not getting help. So I can share my stories, and I share my stories, and I talk about them, and I do fundraising for other people to get their needs met too.
That's wonderful. You also have a podcast called My Black Body.
Yes.
Tell us about how that came to be and what it focuses on.
Through my eating disorder, Jessica Wilson and I had our practice together earlier on, and when my eating disorder kicked up, they would call me and we would talk, and then those talks turned into, we need something to hold Black people in the eating disorder situation because there's not a lot out there, and we need to talk about our bodies and our stories and how we love being Black, but hate how people treat us because we're Black. And how do we recover and restore? Where's the space for our joy? So we started My Black Body podcast. You can find us at myblackbody.org. And we're online and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
You broke up a little bit when you said you can find us where?
You can find us at myblackbody.org. And our podcast is on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast. Yeah, wherever you find podcasts.
And where can people find you in particular? Your website, your social medias?
Yeah, you can link tree me, Rawiyah Tariq. That'll give you links to everything, including Project Etisane, we're trying to raise $100,000 so Black therapists can take a break.
Nice.
But yeah, you can find me there. But it might be easiest to find me on Instagram at Mammy is Dead,
which is the best Instagram handle of anyone I've ever met. Love it. Rawiyah, thank you so much for joining me today. You were a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. You're an amazing host. You ask amazing questions.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to take you off screen and then say goodbye. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye. So that's all, folks. Links to Rawiyah's work will be in the show notes. You can watch this episode tonight, as soon as tonight on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch or on Instagram Live, on Instagram TV tomorrow, as well as listen to the podcast wherever it is you find podcasts tomorrow. If you want exclusive content, you can join me on Patreon. The link to become a Patreon member is on my website at nikkibaileycomedy.com. And as usual, it's been a blast. Thank you to my guest, Rawiyah Tariq. Thank you all for joining me. And remember to get your pray, play, and slay on and sparkle as you go. See you next week.